On Valentine's Day in 1982, an Arizona Department of Public Safety officer was investigating a missing car tire near the Monte Carlo truck stop, located about 11 miles west of Williams, Arizona, along the westbound lane of Interstate 40. The officer's responsibility was to retrieve the tire and prevent any accidents. To his surprise, however, as he approached a cedar tree 25 feet from the interstate, he discovered not a tire, but a human body. The discovery marked the beginning of an investigation into a mysterious death. Under the tree, a young woman, possibly an older teenager, was found partially undressed. She still wore her blue jeans, but nearby lay a red and white striped jumper and her bra. Aside from her clothes and a handkerchief, she had no personal belongings or identification. Jane Doe had blonde hair, piercings in her left earlobe, and scars on one leg and her left foot. The advanced decay and animal damage made it difficult for investigators to determine if her right ear also had piercings. Law enforcement determined that Jane Doe had likely been dragged to the spot where her body was found, based on the position of her belt loops. The medical examiner struggled to identify the exact cause of death due to the condition of the remains, though strangulation is suspected. It is believed she died between February 1st and 6th. Prior to her death, one of her bottom molars had been prepared for a root canal, but witnesses reported seeing her alive on the 3rd. Law enforcement issued a public appeal for help and began constructing a timeline of Jane Doe's last known movements. A Northern Arizona University student recalled driving north on February 2nd to pick up a teenager matching her description. The girl said she was from Phoenix, where she worked as a dishwasher and lived with friends. She explained that her trip to New Jersey was prompted by family matters and that she planned to travel to Flagstaff to find a long-haul trucker heading to the East Coast. During staff interviews at the Monte Carlo truck stop in Ash Fork, investigators spoke with Patty Wilkins, a restaurant employee whose family owned the business. She recalled meeting a young woman on February 3, 1982, who had similar features and blue eyes. The man with her appeared to be much older, and Patty assumed he was either her grandfather, uncle, or father, as he appeared to be in his 60s. Witnesses noted that the man seemed concerned about her teeth. Patty remembered that she had given Jane Doe baby aspirin to ease the pain in her bottom molar, which the girl had applied herself. Patty estimated that Jane Doe was between 16 and 17 years old. Although Patty typically reported young girls who appeared to be runaways to the local sheriff's office, she did not do so this time. She noted that Jane Doe seemed comfortable with the older man and believed they were getting along well. The pair left the truck stop an hour after arriving, around 3 in the morning. Unfortunately, no one could remember the type of vehicle the girl got into when they left. When Patty asked if Jane Doe was okay and wanted to go with the man, Jane Doe reportedly expressed eagerness to leave with him. The man with the adolescent was described as medium build, white, aged between 60 and 65, and standing around 5 feet 8 to 5 feet 10 inches tall. He wore a felt cowboy hat with a large peacock feather at the front and a two-tone brown checkered leather vest. After leaving the Monte Carlo truck stop, Jane Doe was never seen alive again. When detectives interviewed Patty Wilkins and other staff members, she immediately recognized Jane Doe's jumper. 2 years later, in 1984, Melody Cutlip, a young woman who had gone missing from Florida in 1980, was mistakenly identified as Jane Doe. When Melody's missing persons report was discovered, a lieutenant at the Coconino County Sheriff's Office became suspicious that Jane Doe and Melody could be the same person. In 1984, he contacted a forensic odontologist to compare their dental records. The odontologist matched Melody's dental records with Jane Doe's bite marks, but his methods were considered unreliable and scientifically unsound. Melody's mother, not believing the remains were her daughters, declined to have them sent to Florida. Interestingly, Melody returned home in 1986. 12 years later, she tragically died in a car accident in Louisiana. Jane Doe was buried in a cemetery in Williams, Arizona, with Patty Wilkins covering the burial expenses. Her headstone was engraved with Melody Cutlip and Valentine's Sally beneath it. Even after it was confirmed that Jane Doe and Melody were not the same person, Melody's name remained on the headstone for some time, despite her family's repeated requests to have it removed. With help from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, the Arizona Department of Public Safety, and a private genealogy company, the Coconino County Sheriff's Office confirmed in early 2021 that they had identified Jane Doe. She was Carolyn Celeste Eaton, 17, who had been missing since around Christmas of 1981 from St. Louis, Missouri. Carolyn was born on October 1, 1964. After some sort of argument at home, Carolyn Celeste Eaton reportedly ran away. However, it appears her family never filed a missing persons report. There is limited information available about Carolyn's early life or her reasons for leaving her family. Additionally, there aren't many theories surrounding her case. Most people believe she was murdered by the man she was traveling with after refusing his advances, with several online sleuths speculating that her death was an act of retribution. According to armchair detectives, Royal Russell Long is the primary suspect in Carolyn Celeste Eaton's death. Long had a history of violent crimes, including severe sexual assault and kidnapping, and was a dangerous criminal, possibly even a serial killer. In fact, he was charged with molesting his own daughter before he died in prison in 1993. In 1984, Long pleaded guilty to kidnapping in connection with the disappearance of Sharon Bald Eagle. Furthermore, he is also suspected of being involved in the disappearances of Deborah Mayer and Carlene Brown in 1974 in Wyoming. One of the most well-known connections to Royal Russell Long is his alleged involvement in the abduction of two 13-year-old girls, Cinda Pallett and Charlotte Kinsey, at the Oklahoma State Fair in September 1981. The girls had gone to the fair together, and later, Charlotte called her parents to let them know that they had been offered a job helping a fairground employee unload toys from a truck. Charlotte's mother agreed to allow her to take the job as long as she called again by 9 o'clock that night. Long, who worked as a long-haul truck driver and a funfair employee at the time, closely matched the description provided by eyewitnesses, leading to speculation about his involvement in the case. That evening, Long extended the same offer to several other teens, but none accepted the job. He was later accused of taking the lives of both girls. While Long admitted to being at the fair that evening, he denied any involvement in their disappearances. The day before, he had driven a flatbed trailer to a nearby company, which brought him to the area. In addition to Cinda's hair, numerous animal hairs were found in his car, some identified as belonging to dogs and a cat that she had interacted with before vanishing. This evidence further linked Long to the case, although he maintained his innocence. Additionally, bloodstains were found inside Long's car, though it was impossible to determine whether they were animal or human. A strand of blonde hair was also discovered in his house, but it was never conclusively matched to Charlotte. Much of the physical evidence, along with the testimony of Long's daughter and a boy who had been approached by Long on the night Cinda and Charlotte disappeared, was dismissed by the judge in December 1985. This exclusion of key evidence weakened the case against Long, leaving many unanswered questions surrounding his involvement. As a result, the accusations against Long were dismissed, and both girls remain missing to this day. Many believe that the man Carolyn was traveling with fit the description of Long, particularly due to the distinct felt hat with a feather that he was often seen wearing. Anyone with information regarding Carolyn's murder is encouraged to contact the Coconino County Sheriff's Office at 928-226-5012. If you're fascinated by Unsolved Mysteries and enjoying the videos so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up to stay updated on all our latest content. Moving on to the next mystery. Butterflies are famous for undergoing a remarkable transformation during their life cycle. However, their migration patterns have intrigued researchers, leading some to speculate that memories might be passed down from one generation to the next. Many butterflies embark on extraordinary migrations, traveling vast distances from the start to the end of their lives, suggesting a possible link between generations in their journeys. However, many are unfortunate in their travels and die long before they find that they are able to return to their starting point. For some unknown reason, The offspring of a butterfly will work to carry out this journey and finish the migration even if they are completely unaware of where the starting point of the migration was, causing many to speculate that perhaps memories are shared in the transfer of genetic information. This could very well mean that butterflies can continue the lives of their parents almost like a safe checkpoint, sharing in the same behaviors, personalities, and migratory patterns. Moving on to the next mystery. The world we inhabit is filled with mysteries, and throughout history, people have sought to uncover these secrets with limited success. Across the globe, there are places that remain off limits to the public. If you weren't familiar with Area 51 before, you've probably come across it in the news recently. The secretive U.S. military base is the latest thing to be turned into a meme. As of right now, over 1,500,000 people have signed up to storm Area 51. The name of the Facebook group is Storm Area 51, They Can't Stop All of Us. This event is set to happen on September 20th, 2019. Although the event is said to be nothing more than a joke, there seems to be confusion as to whether people are actually going to turn up. Some who have signed up to the group have said it's nothing more than a meme, while others are serious about turning up to the base. As you can imagine, the U.S. military is not taking these claims lightly. Although, Area 51 as a secret base is actually quite well known. This is because of various things that have come out about the base over the years. Although these make for fascinating stories, there's no solid evidence of them being true. One of the first things you'll notice when you're traveling close to the base is that it's marked with orange poles. These are mainly here to tell you you're trespassing and photography isn't allowed. Guards can be seen around the perimeters of the base, and they immediately appear before you can even get close to the base. Over the years, they've become known as the Camo Dudes. This is because of their clothing. They can be observed driving around in 4x4 cars and dealing with people who stray too close to the base. One interesting thing to note is that they're supposedly told not to look at the public. If you're caught by these guards, they do have the right to take away any photographs or video footage you have taken. Sensors can be found littered across the perimeter of the base and even the road that leads down to Area 51. The minute you start driving or walking these sensors, the guards are alerted. This is why they're always there before you are. The original creator of the page has said the following about their plans. We will all meet up at the Area 51 Alien Center tourist attraction and coordinate our entry. If we run fast, we should be able to move faster than their bullets. Let's see them aliens. Area 51 has been a top-secret base for years, and for a very long time, it was shrouded in mystery. It's only been in recent years that we have found little information about it. Satellite imaging of the base itself is believed to be edited and tampered with. And considering it's quite nearly impossible to get reliable footage of areas even surrounding the military base, the contents inside its safely protected border is still a mystery to the general public. So far, the U.S. military have said they're not laughing at the claims that millions of people will be turning up. Further saying if this does happen, they'll be handled within the right way to protect America's security. Even if this is done in a tongue-in-cheek manner, they will handle this as a threat. Air Force spokesperson Laura McAndrews has issued the following warning. Area 51 is an open training range for the U.S. Air Force, and we would discourage anyone from trying to come into the area where we train American armed forces. Further saying, the U.S. Air Force always stands ready to protect America and its assets. Looking on forums and other social media platforms, it does seem like a large amount of people want to turn up at Area 51 on a date. One of the members said the following, even if 1% of the people show up that have signed up to this event, there's still tens of thousands of people that are going to be there. I have talked with a lot of members on here, and it seems like this first started off as a joke. But now that it's gained traction, I think many people are going to turn up. Some are on here because of the press it's received, but I think there's quite a few who will be turning up. I know I'm going to. The next question is what would happen if millions of people did show up at Area 51? How would they control the masses? People who have researched the base have said that if they wanted to, they could use deadly force. In fact, going back in 2017, the military opened fire on a man who was trying to break into a Royal Air Force base in Suffolk, England. It's not the desired outcome, but officials have said that they will do what's needed to keep people under control. Not only this, but U.S. laws does forbid anyone trespassing a military bases. Laws have been created that prohibits people from walking on or entering military installations. The only way a civilian can do this legally is if they have permission from authorized personnel. It's also been brought up that if thousands of people do turn up at Area 51, officials will not hold back and will use the correct measures to deal with these people. It's said that people found trespassing on the military base can expect a heavy fine. Not only this, but it also comes with a minimum imprisonment of 6 months. One of the first things you'll see when you approach the base is the warning signs. These can be found all around Area 51, and they state that no trespassing is allowed and that the use of deadly force is authorized. Recently, the man behind the Facebook page has come forward and said that he is worried about what he has created. He said that the page was originally set up as a joke and that he had no idea it was going to get this big. He said that it surprised him how quickly it spread. Others have said they're not surprised and that many people would love to know what's on inside the base. With one member saying the following, "Over the years, we have heard many strange stories in regards to the base. Although this started off as a joke, I think that many people would actually be interested in knowing what's going on inside there. Because it's a secret, it makes our minds wonder even more. Inside there. Because it's a secret, it makes our minds wonder even more. I think that many people are here because of the memes, but I think it's now turned into something, and people now want answers." The original creator, however, is worried about the consequences this is going to have. He expressed how he thinks that FBI agents are going to shout to his house and that he's now under surveillance. After all, he has brought massive amounts of unwanted attention to one of the most secretive bases in the world. He said the following, "Now that my identity is out there, I'm worried that people will start showing up at my door." As of right now, though, the mysterious base is still shrouded in mystery. Even though all this has come out, it's not revealed anything to the general public. Individuals who have been researching the base have also warned that past events could show what would happen if random people did turn up at the base. Going back in 2016, a television crew filming for the BBC were immediately arrested at gunpoint for getting too close to Area 51. The crew was made up of 12 people, and each person was forced to lie down and be searched by the guards. Incredibly, they were told to lie on the ground for 3 hours while the FBI did security checks on each of the individuals. They were eventually let go. As mentioned though, if people do turn up at the base, they'll most likely be detained on the spot. When people asked the question of how they would deal with the thousands of people, the U.S. military replied, saying they are ready. It's expected that not many people are going to show up and that most of the people will only join the group as a joke. With that being said, the group currently has over 1,500,000 people signed up and a further 1,100,000 people interested. Researchers have now said that because of this meme, interest in Area 51 has been bigger than ever. Even big branded companies are getting involved. For example, one company jokingly said that if someone sneaks out an alien, they will get a lifetime supply of their products. What some have picked up on though is that every year the government seemed to show more and more interest in UFOs. At the end of 2017, the United States Department of Defense quietly began declassifying a series of military documents and research materials to the public. Typically, these declassification efforts involve financial records, technical documents, training programs, government budgets, international aid, and other procedural information that holds little significance outside military circles. However, it soon became clear to members of the UFO community that the declassified files were far more than routine paperwork. The files, which were released gradually over the course of the following year, contained details about a secretive team of researchers assigned to investigate unidentified flying objects and unexplained extraterrestrial sightings. Moving on to the next mystery. Discovering fossilized remains in ancient rock is one thing, but imagine stumbling upon a 100-0000000-year-old screw that seemingly isn't from this planet. A Russian team investigating a meteorite crater in the Kalaga region of western Russia expected to find typical space debris, but instead encountered something far more mysterious. While examining a rock dislodged by the impact, they discovered an unusual object embedded within it. This object, unlike anything they had anticipated, prompted further scientific analysis. A paleontological study confirmed that the strange item at the heart of the rock was a screw, one that wasn't crafted by human hands but had somehow become embedded in the rock over time, possibly after falling to the earth. Tests showed that the iron atoms of the screw and silicon rock atoms spread and fused together, confirming that the screw and rock had been in each other's company for a significant time. It was also concluded that the screw was not the result of natural process, but indeed artificially fashioned. What was even more strange, however, was what geologists said about the age of the rock. Radiocarbon dating placed it to be over 300 million years old. Needless to say, this was a long time before any humans or their tools for that matter had ever been on this planet. So how did it get there? Nigel Watson, an expert of the extraterrestrial, believes this could be ancient evidence of aliens visiting Earth a long time ago, with the screw being a part of their landing craft on this planet. This screw could actually be part of many reports that talk of spheres, toothed wheels, manufactured bots, and footprints embedded in rocks and stones 101 million of years old. Government scientists insist that this is actually the result of a natural formation, even perhaps being an ancient marine animal that bears some similarity in its looks. However, with this particular rock formation secured in a research facility beyond independent geological and archaeological specialists, it is clear that we will not be getting to the truth of the matter anytime soon. Moving on to the next mystery. In recent years, there have been growing reports of marine life, particularly orcas, swimming closer to shore and even venturing into shallow waters. This unusual behavior has raised questions and piqued curiosity about what might be driving these animals to explore new territories. Starting in late May 2023, fishermen and coastal residents began noticing pods of orcas swimming closer to the shore. Experts studying these creatures have observed that their behavior appears to be shifting. One possible explanation for this change could be the impact of human activities on the marine environment, which may be altering the animals' natural habitats and influencing their movements. Human-induced disturbances, such as noise pollution from shipping vessels, offshore construction, and recreational boating, can disrupt the normal behavior and communication patterns of marine animals. In response to these disturbances, some marine species may seek refuge in quieter and more sheltered areas, including nearshore waters. This behavior allows them to avoid the excessive noise and disturbances associated with human activities and find temporary respite. One theory that's been put forward is that the Navy might be carrying out sonar tests. The impact of Navy sonar on marine life, particularly whales, dolphins, and other cetaceans, has been a topic of concern in scientific research for many years. Navy sonar systems emit intense underwater sound waves, which can have significant effects on marine animals, their behavior, and their overall well-being. One of the main concerns regarding Navy sonar is its potential to cause harm to marine mammals. The intense sound waves produced by sonar can disrupt the normal behavior of marine animals, including feeding and communication. Whales and dolphins rely heavily on sound for communication, navigation, and hunting, and exposure to loud sonar signals can disorient them, leading to behavioral changes, including altered migration patterns, strandings, and even physical injuries. For example, studies have shown that beaked whales, which are highly sensitive to sound, have exhibited strong avoidance responses to sonar exposure, leading to mass strandings. Furthermore, research has indicated that Navy sonar can have physiological effects on marine animals. The intense underwater sound can cause hearing loss and damage to the auditory systems of cetaceans. Studies have shown that some species, such as dolphins and killer whales, have suffered from temporary or permanent hearing loss as a result of exposure to sonar. This can have long-lasting consequences for their ability to communicate, navigate, and find food, ultimately affecting their survival in the wild. In response to these concerns, efforts have been made to mitigate the impacts of Navy sonar on marine life. The implementation of environmental impact assessments has become standard practice to evaluate the potential effects of sonar operations on marine animals. These assessments help identify areas of high biological importance and establish mitigation measures, such as avoiding critical habitats or adjusting sonar settings to reduce the intensity and duration of sound emissions. In some cases, real-time monitoring of marine mammal activity is employed, allowing sonar operations to be suspended if animals are detected within a certain range. These measures aim to minimize the impact of sonar on marine life and promote the coexistence of military activities and the preservation of marine ecosystems. Furthermore, technological advancements have been made to develop quieter sonar systems that emit lower intensity sounds, reducing the potential harm to marine animals. Low-frequency active sonar systems, for example, have been modified to emit less intense signals while maintaining their effectiveness in military operations. These advancements represent a step towards balancing the needs of national security with the protection of marine biodiversity. It is important to bear in mind that the issue of Navy sonar and its impact on marine life is complex and multifaceted. While efforts have been made to address the concerns and minimize harm, there is still ongoing research and debate surrounding the long-term effects of sonar on marine ecosystems. Scientists continue to study the impacts of sonar on different species as well as the cumulative effects of multiple stressors such as climate change, pollution, and habitat loss on marine life. According to the newly adopted alternative by the Navy and given approval by the Fisheries Service in October 2020, it is possible that raucous naval exercises may cause disruptions to the endangered orcas in the region. These orcas rely on sound to hunt salmon and communicate, and they may face up to 51 such disturbances within a year. Advocates for the orcas argue that their endangered population, consisting of only 73 whales in this region, can be negatively impacted by even short interruptions to their regular patterns. Norrin Eckham from the Seattle Aquarium commented that activities such as eating, breathing, and nursing their calves are of utmost importance, especially for the southern orcas who are currently facing food scarcity. The unavailability of salmon coupled with noise and disturbance further complicates their situation. Norrin Eckham says that they acknowledge the importance of Navy training and testing but feel that the Navy has the ability and responsibility to modify such activities to safeguard the highly endangered orcas. According to marine mammal biologist Tim Reagan of Anacortes, the Navy must contribute to the protection of highly endangered species, especially the southern resident orcas during its exercises. He suggests that the Navy should find alternative locations where these exercises can be conducted without harming these species. As of right now, the Navy have said that they're not going to stop their sonar tests, but have admitted that it's been shown to have significant effects on marine life, particularly whales, dolphins, and other cetaceans. The intense sound waves emitted by sonar can disrupt the behavior, communication, and overall well-being of these animals with potential consequences for their survival. Efforts have been underway to reduce these impacts through measures such as environmental assessments, real-time monitoring, and the development of quieter sonar systems. Ongoing research and technological advancements play a key role in finding a balance between national security priorities and the preservation of marine biodiversity. In the end, a collaborative approach that includes scientists, policymakers, and military authorities is essential to ensure that naval activities can coexist sustainably with the conservation of marine ecosystems. Moving on to the next mystery. Jellyfish are some of the most fascinating creatures in the natural world. They can vary greatly in size from tiny, nearly invisible floaters to massive, long stingers capable of capturing entire schools of fish. Some even possess remarkable abilities, such as reversing the aging process, allowing them to live for millennia. Jellyfish are among the oldest forms of life on Earth, and many of their unique traits are still being studied. One of the most famous jellyfish species can be found in the Eli Mock Lake in Palau. These peculiar jellyfish are sting-free and can number in the millions, creating a stunning and unusual spectacle for those who choose to swim in the lake. Back during the 1990s, however, this beautiful occurrence was much different. Due to rising changes in climate and the 1990 El Niño weather phenomenon, the introduction of a massive amount of heat caused the jellyfish to naturally die off. It did not take long before the lake was seemingly empty and void with no signs of the jellyfish at all. Many believe that perhaps the changes in temperature were too much for the species and caused a small-scale extinction event in the lake, killing off the entire jellyfish species in one generation. In strange turn of events, after the El Niño phenomenon ended, seemingly coming back from extinction itself, the jellyfish began exploding again in population and came back from seemingly nowhere. The cause for the sudden population explosion after the species was thought to be completely extinct has baffled scientists since its occurrence back in the 90s. And many speculate that a possible secret project to house and protect the species played a part in its sudden revival. This could very well mean that there might be a secret operation of preservation of species that the larger public is not made aware of, only to reintroduce the species when conditions are ripe. Moving on to the next mystery. The fireflies of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, scientifically known as Photinus carolinus, display a unique ability that confounds biologists worldwide and is considered an unexplainable natural phenomenon. Each firefly emits a distinct light pattern that enables males and females of the same species to recognize and locate one another even from great distances and amidst large groups of other fireflies. It is a common behavior for fireflies to have individual and distinct flash patterns and even a variation in color from greenish to yellow lights produced naturally by a bioluminescence of the species. For some strange reason, however, the fireflies of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park are unique to the rest of the world's natural firefly species in that rather than engaging in unique flash patterns and light characteristics, for 2 weeks out of the year, the massive population of the specific firefly species will crowd together and engage in what is referred to as a synchronous pattern. Every member of the firefly species will group up together and flash in this unified color, and the benefits of such an action seem almost non-existent for the species. Moving on to the next mystery. Martha Marie Morrison, born in 1956 in Eugene, Oregon, grew up in foster care. She attended the Corvallis Farm School and Roosevelt High School in Portland before heading to Arizona to join the Job Corps program. Martha had a history of drug abuse and running away from both her foster and biological families. She was last seen on September 1, 1974, visiting her family with a man she lived with in an apartment. After an argument with the man, Martha disappeared. She was 17 years old at the time. On October 12, 1974, about 35 days after Martha's disappearance, the remains of 2 women were found in Dole Valley, near Vancouver, Washington. After the bodies were discovered, the victims' bones were analyzed across the country in an attempt to identify them. Dental records quickly identified one of the victims as 18-year-old Carol Platt Valenzuela. Carol had hitchhiked to Vancouver on August 2, 1970, but never returned home, prompting her husband to file a missing persons report on August 4, 1970. Authorities hoped that identifying her would increase the likelihood of identifying the second victim as well. They planned to question Carol's husband, but he was recovering from an aspirin overdose at the time. On October 25, 1974, Carol's husband was taken into custody but was released after passing a polygraph exam. The second victim, however, could not be identified through any examination. She was estimated to be between 20 and 25 years old and was of Caucasian descent. Forensic facial reconstructions, both frontal and profile, were created and published in a newspaper, but the general public failed to notice them. The victim's physical traits were also noted, including her curly textured hair and dental issues, suggesting she had given birth at some point. Following the initial discovery, police returned to the area with orders to gather more evidence. A newly borrowed metal detector was used, and the autopsies of the 2 victims revealed they had been dead for at least 2 weeks before being found. The decomposition and animal activity in the area made it difficult to determine the exact cause of death. Officials have always believed the victims were murdered. At one point, Patty Hearst was considered a possible match for the second victim, but it was later confirmed she was alive. Over the years, the case has been linked to several serial criminals, including Gary Ridgway, Warren Leslie Forrest, and an unnamed individual whose identity cannot be disclosed on YouTube. In 2012, detectives created a DNA profile for the second victim, and subsequently gathered DNA samples from a number of families with missing female relatives. A genetic profile of Martha Morrison was created using DNA samples from her sister and half-brother, which were compared to potential matches. The profile was also compared to the second victim's DNA. While some similarities were noted, a definitive match could not be established at that time. Eventually, the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, NamUs, an organization focused on locating missing individuals and identifying human remains, became involved. In July 2015, they were able to officially confirm that the second victim was, in fact, Martha Morrison. Following this development, investigators refocused their efforts on capturing the individual responsible for the murders of Martha and Carol. They turned their attention to Warren Leslie Forrest, who is currently serving a prison sentence for the 1974 murder of Krista K. Blake. Forrest was arrested on October 2, 1974, just 10 days before the remains of Martha and Carol were discovered. In 2019, DNA testing on a bloodstain found on Warren Forrest's air pistol confirmed that the blood belonged to Martha Morrison. This blood was initially believed to belong to another woman, one of the 6 victims he assaulted while on the run. Forrest had also been a suspect in the disappearances of Jamie Grissom in 1970 and Diane Gilchrist in 1974. In 2023, the trial of 73-year-old Warren Forrest began. After just 90 minutes of deliberation, the jury found him guilty of all charges on February 1. Warren Forrest's sentencing is scheduled for February 17, 2023. Investigators are continuing to work on other cases to determine whether he may also be responsible for additional crimes. Moving on to the next mystery. A massive black hole is believed to reside at the center of the Milky Way, though it has never been directly observed. However, astronomers have made predictions about what the first images of this black hole might look like using emerging technology. Recent research suggests that instead of the typical blob-like shape often imagined, the boundary of a black hole, known as the event horizon, will appear in a crescent form. By simulating what these images could look like, scientists are preparing to analyze the forthcoming pictures from telescopes currently being built. Since black holes themselves are invisible, as not even light can escape their gravitational pull, these images will capture the surrounding phenomena instead. However, the boundary of a black hole, the point of no return called the event horizon, should be visible from the radiation emitted by matter falling into the black hole. A black hole's immediate surroundings have a lot of really interesting physics going on. Technically speaking, we aren't exactly seeing the black hole, but we are effectively resolving the event horizon. Black holes are the ultimate cosmic quicksand. They're formed when a giant star collapses, imploding into a tiny area of such intense gravity. Even the surrounding light is sucked in. This means that although we've got a sense of how black holes work, we've still never actually seen one. They're invisible to telescopes to pick up electromagnetic radiation, light, or X-rays. We can only guess what they'll look like on the inside. Moving on to the next mystery. Mona Elizabeth Blades, 18, vanished while attempting to hitchhike from Hamilton, New Zealand's North Island. Her disappearance became widely covered in the media and remains one of the country's longest unresolved cases. In recent years, a cold case squad revisited the investigation, but her disappearance remains unsolved. Mona had planned to travel by rideshare from Hamilton to Hastings on May 31, 1975, the first day of the Queen's birthday long weekend. Mona had bought a set of colorful tumblers as a surprise birthday gift for her nephew. At the time, she was living with her sister Lillian, her brother-in-law Tom, and her baby niece Angela. Early in the morning, Tom dropped Mona off on Cambridge Road, marking the last time anyone in the family saw her. Her trip to Hastings was meant to be a surprise, and at the time, no one knew she was planning to visit. Mona was not reported missing until 3 days after she failed to return home as planned. While details of the initial investigation are scarce, it's known that over 500 people were questioned over 6 months, with more than 5,000 hours of search efforts. Despite the extensive work by law enforcement, no evidence surfaced that could shed light on Mona Blades' whereabouts. However, there were numerous reports of potential sightings. The most notable came from a truck driver who claimed to have seen Mona getting into an orange Datsun 120Y station wagon around 10 in the morning. Several other residents reported seeing a similar car traveling off the highway and stopping on Taupo's rural Madia Road. A fencing contractor who was also a witness noticed the vehicle, observing a middle-aged white man driving with a woman who matched Mona's description sitting in the back. A short time later, the same witness saw the car again, but it was empty. The sighting of the orange Datsun was considered a significant lead in the case. The investigators' heavy focus on the Datsun lead may have hindered the case's progress. In a 2018 appearance on TV New Zealand's Cold Case series, experienced investigators reviewed the case files in search of new clues. Upon re-examining the files, some concluded that authorities had overlooked other potentially valuable leads while fixating on the Datsun. They also suggested that using an outdated photo of Mona, in which she had blonde hair, may have misled witnesses. It was later revealed that Mona had actually had a mullet at the time of her disappearance, not the blonde hairstyle depicted in the police photo. Additionally, it was discovered that Mona had lived in Taupo for a longer period than initially believed and may not have left the area at all. The truck driver who originally reported the orange Datsun sighting had altered his statement several times, possibly influenced by media coverage of the case. Many other witness accounts, including one from a store employee who saw Mona get into a dark blue-green station wagon heading toward the Napier-Taupo highway, were dismissed in favor of the Datsun tip. The 18-year-old, according to a witness, was in the car with another female hitchhiker. Another sighting was reported by someone who spoke with a woman who identified herself as Mona Bleds. On May 31st, during the early afternoon, the woman was seen at a spa hotel in Taupo. Shortly after, she was spotted getting into a red Toyota station wagon. While the cold case team believed Mona had met and left with people she knew in Taupo, some detectives have speculated that she may have been kidnapped and murdered that weekend by gang members traveling to Wellington. The 18-year-old reportedly had connections with several members of the notorious Highway 61 biker gang. In addition, in 2018, an unidentified man reached out to the Rotorua Daily Post, stating that a friend who had passed away in 2013 had told him that Highway 61 was linked to Mona's disappearance. A year after her kidnapping, gang members allegedly talked about it, claiming responsibility for her death. It is believed that the gang was traveling in a red Toyota, and witnesses saw two individuals carrying a rolled-up carpet piece to the back of the car. It remains unclear whether the witness who spotted Mona at the spa hotel saw the same vehicle. However, there are other potential suspects in the case apart from the biker gang. Shortly after the investigation began, authorities looked into a man named John Freeman after discovering that he had rented an orange Datsun the weekend before the tragedy. 2 weeks later, when the police announced they were searching for an orange Datsun, Freeman shot and injured a student at the university before taking his own life. It remains unclear whether Freeman was connected to Mona's disappearance. Another person of interest is Charlie Hughes, a Hamilton resident who has provided a DNA sample and been questioned 3 times since the 1970s. Over the years, Charlie Hughes has consistently maintained his innocence and has openly expressed frustration at being investigated. In 2004, investigators were informed about a supposed shallow grave in the garage of a Huntley home, where Mona's name had allegedly been written. It was later revealed that the writing had been a joke, dating back 6 years. The former homeowner eventually expressed regret to Mona's family. In 2012, police excavated the concrete floor of a house in Corio that had once belonged to a traffic cop who passed away in 2009. A fellow policeman had accused the officer of kidnapping and murdering Mona. Tony Mueller, the accuser, claimed he had harbored doubts for a long time. In 2011, he reportedly sent a compilation of information to the authorities. A year later, authorities visited the residence to investigate beneath the laundry room floor. Mueller witnessed the police drill 80 centimeters into the concrete, and then another 80, and he became convinced that a body was buried beneath it. Despite the excavation, nothing of significance was found beneath the floor. However, Mueller remains convinced that a body is buried in the house, now believing it is located under the stairwell. The homeowners also share this belief, according to a 2012 New Zealand Herald report, but authorities cannot dig further without concrete evidence. Mona's case remains unresolved, even after being reopened, and a new investigation was initiated in 2018. Moving on to the next mystery. Although many may not know, Ukraine's history is tied to one of the most powerful witch covens ever to exist, rivaling the ancient tales of Scandinavian magic and Irish witchcraft. Known as the Sabbath, this coven was formed in the year 988 when the region, under the rule of Kniaz Vladimir the Great, transitioned from worshipping the old pagan gods to embracing Christianity, adopting the worship of a single god. This led to many of the witches at the time of whom gathered their power and strength in the belief of the pagan gods to turn away from doing good acts to grow their power, and instead to turn to the only figure in the Christian religion capable of repairing their magical powers once again. This led to the witches forming the Sabbath Coven, of which was a coven dedicated to the worship of Satan and the use of evil deeds and harm to slowly grow their favor with Satan to gain more power. In an attempt to conceal their meetings, the coven would meet atop the bold mountain of Ukraine known as Lysaora and would host 3 meetings a year to discuss their evil deeds and new evils they could perform to grow their power. As time went on, the legends never died as the coven became some of the most powerful in the world. During the rise of the Soviet Union, however, this led to many government officials to hunt down and imprison any people of whom were seen practicing black magic of any kind, and had led to what many people presume the end of the covens of Ukraine. Regardless of this claim, however, there are many people of whom still believe that the coven exists today in secret. According to legends surrounding Lysaora, 3 times of the year, there rolls a dense fog in which anyone of whom attempts to enter will always find themselves leaving the mountain rather than ever reaching its peak where a presumed meeting of the witches is held. Others claim that if you enter the fog with the intention of selling your soul to Satan, he will greet you and grant you fantasies for the fair exchange of your immortal soul. Moving on to the next mystery. On October 31, 1969, a chilly day, 15-year-old Pamela, Pam Sue Hovley, and 16-year-old Patricia, Patty, Spencer left their school in Oscoda, Michigan, together. While the 2 teenagers were not known to be friends, local rumors suggested they may have bonded over shared experiences with drugs and alcohol, leading some online sleuths to speculate that this brought them closer. It is believed that the 2 girls skipped their afternoon classes that day to leave school early and travel to an undisclosed location. Some accounts of the case suggest that a bomb scare may have made their truancy easier, as it would have been simpler to slip away unnoticed amid the chaos. The 2 girls had told their families earlier that day they planned to attend their school's homecoming football game in the evening and then go to a party, despite actually traveling to an unknown location. Pam had mentioned she would be attending the event with her boyfriend and friends. The girls were last seen walking down River Road, heading away from their school and toward the business district. A witness who came forward in 2013 claimed he had given the girls a ride. He reported that he had driven them to a gas station near River Road and Interstates 23. The witness was surprised that investigators were unaware of his involvement, as he had assumed they knew about it. The detectives noted that their case files did not include any such report. It remains unclear how or why this confusion occurred, but the witness was cleared of any involvement in the disappearance of the 2 girls. Later that Halloween night, Pam's mother, Lois, a single mother of 3, returned home from taking her 2 youngest daughters trick-or-treating. Pam's boyfriend then informed her that Pam had not shown up for the party or the football game. When Lois reached out to the parents of Pam's classmates and friends, she learned that Patty was also missing and had not attended either event. Given this, the families filed missing persons reports for both girls. Over the next few days, police interviewed friends and family in an effort to track down the teens and determine their last known whereabouts. Initially, it was believed that the teenagers had run away to Flint on their own. However, their families, especially Pam's, were not convinced. Later, Pam's sister told the media that the 15-year-old seemed happy and was in a good place in her life, so she didn't believe Pam had run away. Additionally, Pam and her partner had recently become engaged. It also seemed that neither girl intended to be gone for long, as either had taken their ID, purse, or an extra set of clothes. After a week, either of the girls had made contact with their families. At this point, investigators began to consider that something more sinister might have occurred on Halloween. Detectives eventually speculated that the girls could have fallen victim to a dubious individual if they had continued hitchhiking. Investigators speculated that the two girls were kidnapped by two or more individuals and then murdered. While they looked into a possible connection to the Oakland County child killer, it didn't seem likely. After following one lead, investigators discovered that what they had believed to be a makeshift cemetery in the woods was actually just an animal buried underground. Pam's family, desperate for answers, offered a $1,000 reward for any tip that could help locate their missing loved one, but no one ever came forward. The case quickly went cold, as there were no further leads or witnesses. In 1985, 16 years after the disappearances, a tip was received by the police suggesting that the two teenagers had been killed by two men from the area and buried near a barn that the teens had used for gatherings. In 2010, a new team reopened the case, decades after the original investigation, and began interviewing friends, family, and potential witnesses. At this time, cadaver dogs and excavation equipment were used to search the location of the barn mentioned in the tip, which was on Brooks Road and had been owned by a man named Jack Searle in 1969. However, no evidence of human remains or belongings belonging to the girls was found. It is unclear whether Jack Searle was ever considered a person of interest. Further searches in 1969 of other local areas frequented by the teens also yielded no results. Mary, one of Pam's sisters, who was only 8 years old when the teens disappeared, spoke to the media in 2011, stating that her family believed the two girls had died. She told the Oscoda media, "Patty and Pam have passed away. In our darkest corners of the soul, the families are aware of this. Although we are clueless about the how or why, someone knows." Mary continues to work toward resolving the case. In the years since the 15-year-old disappeared, Pam's parents and grandparents have passed away, never knowing what happened to their beloved daughter and granddaughter. The Oscoda Township Police Department has stated that the age of the case is their biggest challenge. While they believe there is a solution, they feel that time is making things more difficult. In 2013, authorities revealed they had identified a person of interest, but they needed more information to move forward with the investigation. Pam's boyfriend has never been considered a suspect or person of interest, which is an important detail in the case. Both girls' DNA has been collected and is stored on file, allowing comparisons with other unidentified individuals who match their descriptions. While Patty's dental records are unavailable, Pam's dental records are on file. However, either girl's fingerprints have been found. On Halloween night in 1969, Patricia Spencer and Pamela Sue Hobley were last seen walking along River Road, heading away from their school and toward the Oscoda Business Center. The man who gave them a ride and dropped them off near River Road and Interstate 23 is the last known person to have seen them. Since then, they have not been seen or heard from. At 16 years old, Patricia was between 5 feet 3 inches and 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighed around 120 pounds. She was described as a Caucasian female with blue eyes and brown hair. Although Patricia should have been wearing glasses, she was not when she disappeared. She was known as Patty and had a scar from a dog bite on one of her legs. At the time of her disappearance, she was wearing a brown jumper, a brown tweed or plaid skirt, brown high-heeled shoes, and a silver necklace with a peace symbol pendant. Pamela, who was 15 when she vanished, had a scar on the bridge of her nose. She was described as a Caucasian female with brown hair and brown eyes. Pamela also had a birthmark or scar on the left corner of her mouth. She was known as Pam and stood between 5 feet 6 and 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighing between 101 and 115 pounds when she was last seen. At the time of her disappearance, she was wearing a 3/4-length white faux fur coat with brown trim, a long-sleeved shirt with ruffled sleeves, a brown and white plaid skirt, knee-high socks, and chunky heels. If the girls were still alive today, Patty would be 68 years old, and Pam would be 67. In recent years, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has made photos of the girls available for public viewing. Pam's photograph shows her at the age of 57, while Patty's shows her at 60. If you have any information about this case, you can contact the Oscoda Township Police Department at 989-759-9113. Alternatively, you can reach the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children by dialing 1-800-843-5678. Moving on to the next mystery. Urban legends and terrifying myths of all kinds emerge from all corners of the globe, with reports of strange supernatural, paranormal, and extraterrestrial occurrences spreading quickly through towns or regions. While some of these legends remain local, others gain widespread attention, making national and even global headlines. One such legend is the cleaning product scandal. Seen as one of the weirdest urban legends to come out of the country of Spain is that of the reports of a strange ritual out in the dense forests of the country founded by a popular cleaning products manufacturer local to the country. Rumors surrounding the interesting claims first started popping up after the cleaning products manufacturer claimed that it would use a large amount of its income in an effort to help with techniques and practices in forest conservation. Residents nearby the manufacturer were well aware of the company's reputation, and so found it incredibly odd that such a claim would be made and that large amounts of money would be allocated for an effort that the company had made no previous mentions or interest in assisting. Shortly after this company-wide change, locals began claiming that there were a number of strange ritualistic gatherings in nearby forests of the manufacturer, and that these areas seemed to match areas that the company was pouring money into in an effort to aid with their so-called claims of forest conservation. This led many to believe that maybe the sightings were more than just a coincidence, and that the cleaning products manufacturer was at the center of a satanic cult, using the money in reported conservation efforts to help fund and support ritualistic gatherings away from civilization. Interestingly enough, reports surrounding that of scandalous Italian politicians have also talked on length about satanic cult gatherings in dense forests, believing that the company could be using these gatherings to get a foot in the door with powerful political Italian figures. Regardless of these rumors, there appears to be no supporting evidence of the claims, as nothing further has ever surfaced from the urban legends over previous years. This has led many to believe that perhaps the rumors were started as nothing more than an unrealistic horror story among kids. Moving on to the next mystery. Morag is a legendary loch monster said to inhabit Loch Morag in Scotland. Second only to Nessie in fame among Scottish mythical creatures, sightings of Morag date back to 1887, with a total of 34 reported encounters by 1981. Of these, 16 involved multiple witnesses. One particularly notable sighting occurred in 1948 when 9 people in a boat reported seeing a serpent-like creature approximately 20 feet long. This was in the same place as the 1887 sighting. The best-known encounter in 1969 featured 2 men, Duncan and William, and their speedboat, with which they had accidentally struck the creature, prompting it to hit back. They retaliated with an oar and open-fired with a rifle, whereupon it slowly sank out of sight. They described it as being brown 20 to 30 feet long, and with rough skin. It had 3 humps rising 18 inches out of the loch's surface and a head a foot wide. A pair of photographs taken in 1977 by Miss Lindsay shows an object in the loch. Many believe this to be the Morag. The object appears to have moved several yards from one photo to the other. The first picture shows a round back, while the second picture seems to show 2 humps. The Loch Ness investigation expanded its search to include Loch Moura in February 1970. Several expeditions with the aim to prove or find the monster have been made, but no evidence for an unknown large creature has been found. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed exploring these intriguing unsolved mysteries with me. If you found the video fascinating, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Unsolved Mystique for more deep dives into unsolved mysteries. Your support helps me bring you more compelling content. Leave a comment below with your thoughts or any mysteries you'd like me to cover next. See you in the next video.